Welcome, my dear learners, for this course on finite element analysis. In our module 4, we are discussing about analysis of heat transfer problems. In our previous lecture, I have derived the governing differential equation for one-dimensional heat transfer through conduction and convection. In this class, we are heading to derive the stiffness matrix and load vector due to conduction and convection. Before moving on to derive these equations which we require to analyze the problems on composite walls and fins, let us discuss the boundary conditions first. Coming to the boundary conditions, if you clearly observe the governing differential equation which we have derived in our last class, it is the second order differential equation. So therefore, to solve the problems, we should know two boundary conditions. The boundary conditions in heat transfer are of three different types. The basic types of boundary conditions in heat transfer problems are categorized as: the first boundary condition is specified temperature boundary condition. In case of specified temperature boundary condition, if I consider a plane wall, the temperature of one of the surface is specified. Let us say it is T0 and we have length of this plane wall as LE. Let us take this as surface 1 and this as surface. According to specified temperature boundary condition, the boundary condition is given as temperature at x is equal to 0. Let us say this is the direction of x, where x varies from 0 to length of the element or length of this plane wall. Temperature at initial point at x is equal to 0 is known to us, which is T0, which is a constant. For example, the initial temperature of a plane wall is around 200 degrees Celsius and heat transfer is taking place because of both conduction and convection. To begin the problem with, we know the temperature boundary condition, that is the temperature at initial point at x is equal to 0 is known to us. Now moving on to our second boundary condition. The second boundary condition is specified heat flux boundary condition. In order to analyze this specified heat flux boundary condition, let us consider a plane wall which is insulated at surface 1 and there is a amount of flux coming into the control volume of this plane wall, let it be Q, the length of this plane wall be LE. Since it is insulated, the flux at the surface 1 is 0. So for specified heat flux boundary condition, the flux at x is equal to LE, that is at surface 2, we know the value, that is plus Q watt per meter square. The value is known. And one important note to be considered is, from the knowledge of thermodynamics, heat added to the system is positive, heat moving out of the system is negative. Whereas work done by the system is positive, whereas work done on the system, that is power absorbing, is negative. Here heat is coming into the system, therefore it is considered to be positive. If heat is moving out of the system, then it is considered to be negative. So this is about the specified heat flux boundary condition. So flux added is positive, whereas flux moving out is considered to be negative. Moving on to our third important boundary condition in analysis of heat transfer is convective boundary condition. In order to study the convective boundary condition, let us consider the plane wall of, let us say, the surface 1 is insulated and we have convective mode of heat transfer at surface 2. So the convective boundary condition is specified as flux due to conduction, that is Q, at x is equal to length of the element will be equal to convective heat transfer at x is equal to length of the element. That is, the convective flux is given by h times T surface temperature minus T infinity at x is equal to length of the element. So what is the amount of heat conducted from the surface will be equal to the amount of heat convected at the boundary. So this is the convective boundary condition, or this can also be written as this is the amount of heat conducted. So therefore flux due to conduction is already known to us, that is minus k dt by dx at x is equal to length of the element will be equal to the convective boundary condition, that is convection. Flux due to convection is h times the convective heat transfer coefficient times the temperature difference at x is equal to length of the element. Very important note to be remember is where the surface temperature is greater than the ambient temperature. The driving force for heat transfer is temperature difference. Heat is moving from surface to environment. So this is the different boundary conditions in analysis of heat transfer problems. The first boundary condition is specified temperature boundary condition, in which on the boundary of the system we know the temperature. The second boundary condition is specified heat flux boundary condition. On the boundary of the system we know the flux coming in or moving out of the system. Coming for the third boundary condition, that is convective boundary condition. At the boundary we have the convection mode of heat transfer. So this is the three different basic boundary conditions in analysis of heat transfer problems. Let us move on. Now if I formulate the problem of heat transfer by one dimensional element, let us consider bar. In one dimensional analysis for heat transfer, I can divide this bar into n number of small elements, finite elements. Let us take the element number 1. So for one dimensional element, at node number 1 you have temperature T1, at node number 2 you have temperature T2, whereas FE is the length of element number 1. So for one dimensional element, we already know the shape function. Temperature at any point on this element can be calculated with the help of shape function. So therefore, the temperature at any point T is given by shape function times the nodal variables. That is, the nodal variables are values of the field variables at corresponding nodes. The field variable for heat transfer problem is temperature, whereas for structural analysis the nodal variable is displacement. Now the shape function is a row matrix, that is it is n1 and n2, whereas the nodal variable matrix is nothing but the temperature at each node, that is T1 and T2, where the shape functions we already know for one dimension. The shape functions are given by n1 is equal to 1 minus x by length of the element, and n2 is equal to x by length of the element in Cartesian coordinate, whereas the value of n1 is 1 minus zeta by 2 and n2 is 1 plus zeta by 2 in natural coordinate system. The advantages of using zeta and eta, we already know the value of zeta varies from minus 1 to plus 1. So with this basic knowledge, we already know the value of strain displacement matrix. Strain displacement matrix is nothing but the derivative of the shape function. So therefore, the strain displacement matrix will be matrix B is equal to differentiation of the shape function. Now B matrix is nothing but D times n1 n2 by dx. So therefore the strain displacement matrix B is equal to the row matrix of shape function 1. So if I differentiate the shape function with respect to x, I will get the value of strain displacement matrix. So therefore, the value of strain displacement matrix B in one-dimensional analysis is shape function 1. If I differentiate, I will get d by dx of 1 minus x by d and d by dx of x by d. So therefore, the value of the strain displacement matrix B matrix is minus 1 by length of the element and plus 1 by length of the element, which is an important note to be remembered to solve problems as well as to derive the expression for stiffness matrix. One more important point to be noted is the rule for integration of shape function. Coming for the shape function with power as m, I am integrating the shape function over the length of the element. The integration rule is that the integration of shape function whose power is m, which is integrated with respect to 0 to le with respect to length, the value will be m factorial divided by m plus 1 factorial times the length of the element. If I have a product of shape functions integrated over the length of the element, let us say n1 times m and n2 times n integrated with respect to x, then the answer is m factorial into n factorial divided by m plus 1 factorial times the length of the element. So kindly make a note and remember the rule for integration of shape function. This is very important. Let us derive the equations for stiffness matrix due to conduction and convection, and also the load vector due to conduction and convection. Moving on to derive the finite element formulation of heat transfer by Galerkin's method, let us consider a uniform bar of temperature maintained at temperature T having cross-sectional area A, thermal conductivity K, which is subjected for heat transfer due to conduction from left end to right end, and the lateral surface of this uniform bar is subjected for convection mode of heat transfer. Additional, we can consider the heat transfer due to convection at the end points also. If I formulate this with the help of one-dimensional element, let the length of the element be Le. One-dimensional element will have two nodes. At node number 1, the temperature will be T1, and at node number 2, the temperature will be T2. In our previous lecture, that is in our lecture 1 of our module 4, I derived the governing differential equation in one dimension for heat transfer through conduction and convection, which is given by d by dx of k dt by dx plus q is equal to the convection, that is hp by a t minus T infinity, where T is the surface temperature and T infinity is the environmental temperature. Now, to determine the temperature at any point in this uniform bar, we make use of the interpolation function or shape function. That is, the value of T can be determined with the help of interpolation function as, now the temperature at any point that is denoted by T prime is given by N into Q, where Q is the nodal variable matrix. The nodal variable for heat transfer analysis is temperatures. At node 1, the temperature is T1, at node 2, the temperature is T2. Therefore, if I substitute, I will get the shape function is a row matrix N1 and N2, whereas the nodal variables are T1 and T2. Therefore, the temperature at any point can be determined with the help of N1 T1 plus N2 T2. Since the shape function is an approximate function, if I substitute this equation in the point of temperature and simplify, this equation will not yield us LHS is equal to RHS. This equation will yield us the residual error. This is because of the reason the temperature at any point is calculated with the help of interpolation function. It is an approximate function which will not give us the exact solution, it will give us the approximate solution. Therefore, if I substitute this equation in our governing differential equation and simplify, we will get the residual error. The residual error will be R is equal to d by dx of k dt prime by dx plus q minus hp by a t prime minus t infinity. This is not at all equal to 0. This gives us some value which is nothing but the residual error. Now, to make this value is equal to 0, I should multiply the weighting function and integrate over the entire length. If I multiply the weighting function on both sides and integrate it over the entire length, then I can make the LHS is equal to RHS, or the difference will be equal to 0. Therefore, you have to get rid of this residual error. I want to multiply the weighting function. So if I multiply the weighting function and integrate over the entire length, I can make this equation is equal to 0. That is, if I multiply and integrate the weighting function over the length to the residual error, I can make this function is equal to 0. I can correct the residual error. The weighting function for the heat transfer analysis is nothing but the transpose of the shape function matrix, where the weighting function is nothing but the transpose of the shape function matrix, where the shape function matrix is a row matrix. If I take, I get a, if I take transpose, I get a column matrix. So now, multiplying the weighting function and integrating over the length, I can make this equation is equal to 0 and get rid of residual error. This is according to the Galerkin's approach. So if I do that, I will get multiplying transpose of the shape function as the weighting function and integrating over the length, I will get integrating over the length transpose of the shape function d by dx of k dt by dx plus, this is integration with respect to x, plus integrating over the length transpose of the shape function is multiplied as the weighting function into q into dx minus integration over the length multiplying into weighting function ht by a t prime minus t infinity. This will be equal to 0. Integration with respect to x. So now I will get rid of the residual error, even though I am using the interpolation function or an approximate function to determine the temperature at any point. So now if I simplify this governing differential equation, I can extract the stiffness matrix due to conduction as well as the stiffness matrix due to convection, and also I can derive the load vector due to conduction and convection. Now heading to simplify this equation, this is of the form integration by parts. That is, first function is n transpose and this is the second function. We know the rule for integration by parts, that is, integration by parts is given by integral of u into v with respect to x is equal to first function integral of second minus integral of differentiation of first into integral of integration by parts states that first function into integral of second minus derivative of first into integral of second. So substituting this to our equation number 1, so I will get first function is n transpose integral of second, integration and differentiation will get cancelled, so I left out with k dt prime by dx, limit is from 0 to length of the element, minus differentiation of first, so that is integral is from 0 to length of the element, differentiation of first is bn transpose by dx, integral of second is nothing but this term, that is k dt prime by dx. The integration is with respect to x. So this is the integration for the first term, that is by parts. Continuing which I have the second term. The second term will be plus integral is from 0 to length of the element n transpose q dx minus, so if I multiply for t prime, I will get plus into minus is minus, integral is from 0 to length of the element n transpose xp by a t prime, minus of minus is plus, integral is from 0 to length of the element n transpose xp by a into t infinity dx will be equal to 0. So this is the further simplification of this equation. The first term is simplified with the help of integration by parts, and for the last third term I just multiplied inside the brackets. So now substituting the corresponding values, whereas t prime is nothing but n into q and dn by dx is already known. The differentiation of shape function is nothing but the strain displacement matrix. So therefore, substituting the corresponding values of shape function and strain displacement matrix, the further simplification of this equation will yield us, making note of the equation for further simplification, I have n transpose of k dt prime by dx, limit is from 0 to length of the element. Now taking the negative equations to one side and positive equations to one side, if I rearrange the terms, these two terms are of negative, so therefore I have integral from 0 to length of the element dn transpose by dx of k dt prime by dx into dx plus this term, that is integral from 0 to length of the element n transpose xp by a t prime dx will be equal to these two plus the last term, that is 0 to length of the element n transpose q dx plus the first term is n transpose k dt prime by dx. The limit is from 0 to length of the element, and the last term is integral from 0 to length of the element n transpose hp t infinity by a dx. Simplifying this equation, I will get stiffness matrix for conduction. Simplifying this, I will get stiffness matrix for convection. Simplifying this, I will get the load vectors. Now simplifying this to the form of equilibrium equation, that is k into q is equal to f form. So I will end up with, so further simplifying this equation, the differentiation of the shape function is nothing but strain displacement matrix. So substituting for this equation, I will get integral from 0 to length of the element, differentiation of shape function will gives us the strain displacement matrix, that is B matrix transpose K. This temperature can be written as shape function into nodal variables, that is dt prime by dx is nothing but dn by dx into q with respect to x, plus simplifying this one, I have hp t prime is n into q by a, t prime is n into q, so therefore I get integral from 0 to le n transpose n dx into q. This is further equal to integral from 0 to le n transpose q dx plus n transpose of k dt prime by dx can be written as dn by dx into q, where the limit is from 0 to length of the element, plus integral from 0 to le n transpose hpt infinity by a dx. Further simplifying this equation, I will end up with the differentiation of shape function is strain displacement matrix. This n into q is obtained by substituting the value of t prime, that is t prime is equal to n into q. Now further simplifying this equation by throughout multiplying with area. So throughout multiplying this equation by area. So if I multiply throughout by area both on LHS and RHS and further simplifying, the differentiation of shape function is strain displacement matrix. So multiplying throughout by area, so if I substitute, I will get k times to area integral from 0 to length of the element b transpose b dx into q, plus area and area will get cancelled, so I left out with hp integral from 0 to length of the element n transpose n dx into q. This is equal to integral from 0 to le n transpose q dx plus n transpose k dn by dx is nothing but strain displacement matrix into q, is integrated from 0 to length of the element plus integral from 0 to le n transpose hp t infinity by a into dx. So in the RHS also you should multiply with area, so this will become area times n transpose, here also you have area and area will get cancels. So this is of the form stiffness matrix due to conduction plus stiffness matrix due to convection whole multiplied by q is equal to load vector due to internal heat generation plus load vector due to conduction plus load vector due to convection. So this is of the form of equilibrium equation. K matrix into Q matrix is equal to F, where stiffness matrix due to conduction is given by this term, stiffness matrix due to convection is given by this term, load vector due to internal heat generation is given by this term, load vector due to conduction is given by this term, and load vector due to convection is given by this last term. So noting down the values, stiffness matrix due to conduction can be calculated with the help of area of the element, thermal conductivity of that element, integration from 0 to le b transpose b dx. Convection stiffness matrix can be calculated with the help of convectivity transfer coefficient times the perimeter into integral is from 0. Discuss one by one in detail. Coming for the first one, stiffness matrix due to conduction. K of an element due to conduction is equal to area of the element into thermal conductivity. The value of B transpose is known to us. Integral is from 0 to LE. B transpose is minus 1 by LE, 1 by LE, whereas the matrix B is minus 1 by LE, 1 by LE times dx. So now doing multiplication and integrating which I get area of the element into thermal conductivity of that element, multiplying which I will get 1 by LE square plus into minus is minus 1 by LE square, minus into plus is minus 1 by LE square plus 1 by LE square, and integral of dx with respect to 0 to LE will be length of the element. So multiplying inside and taking common, the stiffness matrix of any element due to conduction is given by area of the element, thermal conductivity of that element divided by length of the element times 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. So this is the formula for stiffness matrix due to conduction. Area of the element, thermal conductivity of that element divided by length of the element 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. Moving on to the stiffness matrix due to convection. The stiffness matrix due to convection is given by this equation. So therefore, the stiffness matrix of any element due to convection is equal to H into P. We have the N transpose, that is N1 N2 times shape function matrix, that is N1 N2 dx. Doing multiplication, I will get HP. Integral is from 0 to LE. N1 square, N1 N2, N1 N2, N2 square dx. Using our rule of integration which I discussed initially in this lecture, so if I substitute and simplify, I will get HP times the integration of n1 square will be 2 factorial divided by 2 plus 1 factorial, that is 2 by 6. Integral of n1 n2 is 1 by 3 factorial, which is 1 by 6. This is also 1 by 6, and here I will get 2 by 6. So therefore, stiffness matrix of any element due to convection is equal to HP by 6 times the length of the element. So HP LE by 6 2 1 1 2. So this is the element stiffness matrix due to convection. Next, moving on to load vectors. I have the load vector as the load vector due to internal heat generation is F of Q is equal to Q times A N transpose dx, that is integral from 0 to LE N1 N2 of dx. The value of N1 and N2 is known. Instead of substituting and integrating, let us directly use the rule of integration. If I use the rule of integration, I will get the value as Q times A. This is 1 factorial by 2 factorial, and this is also 1 factorial by 2 factorial. So therefore, I will get into LE. So therefore, I will get LE by 2, LE by 2. So which is nothing but QA length of the element by 2 1 1. So to remember the load vector due to internal heat generation, have to get the heat in watts, multiply the volume. Volume is area times length. So therefore, watt per meter cube into meter cube will get watts. Divided by 2. Keep half at node number 1, another half at node number 2. Moving on to our fourth element, load vector. That is load vector due to conduction. That is heat flux. Load vector due to heat flux. So this is no need to simplify this equation, because in the problems we will be dealing with what amount of heat added to the element or what amount of heat is taken out from the element. So therefore, directly we can write the load vector due to heat flux, which is termed as load vector due to conduction, can be written as area of the element times the amount of heat added or taken out. So let us say at node number 1 we are adding q amount of heat, q1 amount of heat, and at node number 2 we are taking out q2 amount of heat, whereas this is the length of the element. Then heat added to the system is positive, this will become plus q1. Heat taken out from the system is negative, this will become minus q2. Moving on to our final or last load vector, that is load vector due to convection. The load vector due to convection is given by this equation, that is load vector on any element due to convection is equal to, very important point, this is due to surface convection, not end convection. Surface convection, let us specify properly. Load vector due to lateral surface convection, I get HPT infinity, integral of N transpose is N1 N2 0 to LE dx. Using the rule of integration, I will get the integral of N1 N2 is nothing but LE by 2 LE by 2. So therefore, load vector into surface convection is HP T infinity LE by 2 1 1. So these are the three different types of load vectors. Apart from these 5, if I have end convection, then I should account for stiffness matrix due to end convection and load vector due to end convection. So if I consider that into account, so I will get, so these are the element stiffness matrix and the element load vectors which we have derived. Finally, in addition to this lateral convection, if we have end convections, for left end convection, the additional element stiffness matrix due to left end convection is given by h of end convection, that is convective heat transfer coefficient, times the area into 1001. Whereas this is for surface convection, this matrix is for end convection, that is particularly for left end convection. If I have convection right end, then this will be the element stiffness matrix in addition to the surface convection. Coming for the load vector due to end convection, this is load vector due to left end convection, and this is load vector due to right end convection. So for element having conduction, surface convection and end convection, then the element stiffness matrix will consisting of 3 matrices. One is element stiffness matrix due to conduction, element stiffness matrix due to convection, and element stiffness matrix due to end convection. Either it is left end or it is right end. A single element cannot have both left hand and right hand convection. Make a note of it. An element can have either left hand convection or right hand convection. They can have both convection and surface convection. Coming for end convection, one among these two will be there if that is mentioned in the question. So this is the complete finite element formulation which is required to analyze the heat transfer in composite walls and in external surfaces, that is in fins. That's all from this lecture. Thank you.